They won't tell you this, but the moment you make these mistakes, you lose power, you lose respect, and worst of all, you lose control. Not because you're weak, not because you're wrong, but because you've broken laws of power that never forgive. And Machiavelli? He warned you, centuries ago, but we didn't listen. We still expose our emotions, trust the wrong people, speak too much, and suffer the same fate as the fallen. If you're not careful, you won't just fail, you'll be humiliated. You've been told to be honest, to be open, to be kind. But what they didn't tell you is that power doesn't care about your intentions, it only sees your results. You think you're being noble, but Machiavelli saw it differently. He saw how kings were slaughtered, nobles exiled, leaders betrayed, not because they were evil, but because they were careless. These weren't minor errors, they were humiliations, mistakes that stripped men of crowns and left once feared rulers begging for mercy. And you might be making the same mistakes. Right now, smiling too much, forgiving too fast, speaking when you should be silent. You think you're being good, but power sees you as prey. And Machiavelli knew, once you look weak, you are weak. And once they smell that weakness, they strike. This video isn't about theories, it's about survival. Because if you don't understand these humiliating mistakes, you'll keep making them, and wonder why the world keeps turning against you. Niccolò Machiavelli wasn't just a writer. He was a political survivor, exiled, tortured, then trusted again by those in power. Why? Because he understood the rules beneath the rules. In The Prince, he exposed the game, not to glorify it, but to show how it's played. He watched kings rise with cruelty and fall with kindness. He studied betrayal in palaces and loyalty in prisons. His book was banned by the church, feared by rulers, and yet read in secret by every man who wanted real power. What he discovered? It still applies today. And the 7 humiliating mistakes you're about to hear, they come straight from the mind of a man who knew mercy without calculation is suicide. Honesty without strategy is surrender. Machiavelli didn't warn us because he was cold. He warned us because he saw the cost of being naive. In the next few minutes, you'll discover the 7 fatal mistakes that silently destroy your influence and invite humiliation. Not the obvious ones, the ones Machiavelli saw behind closed doors, where power plays are masked as friendship and downfall begins with a smile. By the end, you won't just see the traps, you'll know how to walk around them, without ever looking back. At the heart of every downfall, Machiavelli observed one thing: misreading power. Power isn't loud, it isn't fair, it doesn't reward goodness, it rewards perception. If you seem weak, you are. If you seem indecisive, you lose. The 7 mistakes? They all stem from this one flaw: confusing moral virtue with political survival. Ask yourself, have you ever apologized just to keep the peace, even when you were right? Ever trusted someone because they seemed nice, only to be betrayed? Have you stayed silent when you should have spoken? Or spoken too soon and regretted it instantly? Did you assume loyalty was mutual, only to realize you were the only one playing fair? These aren't random mistakes. They're signals, warnings, and if they feel familiar, you're not alone. Machiavelli wrote about you, centuries before you were born. By the end of this video, you'll know the 7 exact behaviors Machiavelli warned would lead to your downfall. Not theory, strategy. You'll learn how to protect your reputation, how to stay unpredictable, and how to stop giving people the weapons they'll later use against you. Because once you see the game, you never play it blind again. Machiavelli saw the mind not as a moral compass, but as a battlefield, Every action, every word is either a shield or a weapon. People don't just observe you, they assess you. Are you a threat or a tool? A leader or a liability? In The Prince, he makes it clear. Humans are driven by fear, by desire, by the illusion of control. And when you forget that, when you act as if everyone is guided by decency, you walk straight into their trap. This isn't cynicism, it's realism. And it's how the powerful survive, by understanding the game instead of denying it. You might think you're respected, but look closer. Do people interrupt you, but stay silent for others? Do they forget your boundaries, but never test those who seem colder? Do they laugh at your ideas, then steal them later as their own? That's not random. That's what Machiavelli warned. When you appear too kind, too open, too forgiving, you invite humiliation. You might notice you apologize often, even when you're not at fault. You might explain yourself constantly to people who aren't even listening. You're not seen as virtuous. You're seen as vulnerable. And when people sense vulnerability, they don't protect it. They exploit it. Machiavelli said it best. Men forget more easily the death of their father than the loss of their inheritance. What does that mean? It means people will smile while stripping you of your influence. And if you let them, they'll blame you for bleeding. Here's how it happens. You try to be liked. So you share too much. You're honest, vulnerable, transparent. At first it feels good. People applaud your openness. But then, they test you, dismiss you, mock you behind your back. So you try harder. You give more. You shrink yourself to fit their comfort. And suddenly, you're no longer respected. You're expected to be silent, to be soft, to be safe. Machiavelli saw it clearly. The more you chase approval, the less you command respect. And here's the trap. When they no longer fear losing you, they stop valuing you. Now you're stuck. If you push back, you're changing. If you stay quiet, you keep bleeding. This is the cycle, the humiliation loop. And if you don't break it, you don't just lose power, you lose yourself. But the worst part, it doesn't stop with them. It becomes you. You start censoring yourself, not because they told you to, but because you've trained yourself to avoid rejection. You question your instincts. You second-guess your boundaries. You replay conversations, wondering if you were too much. And every time you shrink, you reinforce the lie that staying small is safer than standing strong. Machiavelli warned that when power is lost on the outside, the real damage happens within. You no longer need enemies. You become your own. You scold yourself for being assertive. You punish yourself for being visible. You betray your own needs and call it maturity. But it's not growth. It's erosion. And it's subtle. So subtle you don't notice until you're sitting in a room full of people who like you, but no one respects you. And here's the danger. What you don't heal, you hand down. You teach others to ignore you because you've ignored yourself. You normalize silence, normalize betrayal, normalize playing small, until those around you think that's what strength looks like. But Machiavelli knew the decay of power doesn't end with you. It spreads. Unless you cut the cycle, consciously, violently, and without apology. Now that you see it, you can't unsee it. Every interaction, every slip of silence, every time you let it slide, you'll feel it. Because awareness is a line you can't walk back across. Machiavelli didn't write The Prince to make you paranoid. He wrote it so you'd finally understand. The cost of staying blind is far greater than the pain of waking up. And this This is where it begins. Not with rage, not with revenge, but with clarity. You don't need to become cruel. You just need to stop being careless. Stop handing people your silence and calling it peace. Stop giving your time to those who trade it for convenience. Stop making yourself small so others can feel big. Machiavelli didn't say, be ruthless. He said, be prepared, be strategic, be unshakable. Start noticing who interrupts you. Start observing who gets uncomfortable when you finally say no. Because that's where your power was buried. Under every yes you didn't mean, every smile you faked, every truth you swallowed. Today, you take it back. Imagine this. You walk into a room and no one questions your presence. Not because you're loud, but because you're certain. You speak less and say more. You reveal little and command everything. People no longer test your boundaries, they adjust to them. You're not cold, you're clear. You're not cruel, you're calculated. You no longer explain your worth, you embody it. That's the transformation, not becoming someone else, but becoming someone untouchable. And the only thing you had to do? Stop making the mistakes that turned power into permission. But don't expect it to feel easy. At first, it'll feel like guilt. You'll say no and feel selfish. You'll assert yourself and feel like a villain. Why? Because you were trained to please, conditioned to shrink, rewarded for silence. The moment you break that pattern, your body will rebel. Your mind will whisper, you're being difficult, you're being rude. Ignore it. That's not your intuition. That's the echo of manipulation. Power withdrawal is real, but it passes. And on the other side is someone they can no longer control. And don't underestimate the body. It remembers everything. The tension in your shoulders? That's years of holding back truth. The tightness in your jaw? That's every word you swallowed to keep the peace. The shallow breath, the restless sleep, the sudden exhaustion. They're not random. They're alarms. Signals from a body that's been overruled by fear and drained by performance. Machiavelli spoke of rulers losing control of their kingdoms. But you've lost control of your own nervous system. Take it back. Because your power doesn't just live in your voice, it lives in your spine, your breath, your posture. Claim that, and they'll feel the difference before you say a word. Here's the twisted part. You'll miss them. The ones who disrespected you, dismissed you, controlled you. You'll miss the familiarity, the routine, the validation you begged for and rarely got. Because even humiliation, when repeated enough, starts to feel like home. That's the paradox. You escape the cage, but part of you still searches for the bars. Machiavelli knew. People cling to their oppressors when the truth feels lonelier than the lie. But now you know better. Missing them doesn't mean they were good. It means they were consistent. And now it's your turn to be consistent. With yourself. You've been told power is evil, that ambition corrupts, that silence is noble. But that's the story they sold you, to keep you quiet. Machiavelli didn't glorify cruelty. He revealed that power, misused, destroys. But power, misunderstood, enslaves. Real power isn't domination. It's discretion. It's not shouting louder. It's knowing when to say nothing and still be heard. It's not manipulating others. It's refusing to be manipulated. Redefine it. Power isn't force. It's presence. It's control of the self in a world that profits from your chaos. And when you realize that, you stop apologizing for wanting to win. Manipulation doesn't always scream. Sometimes it smiles. It flatters you. agrees with you, tells you exactly what you want to hear. Then it asks for your time, your energy, your silence, and you give it because it feels like connection. Machiavelli warned us, the most dangerous enemies aren't the loud ones. They're the agreeable ones. They say, "You're overthinking. Don't be so sensitive. I would never hurt you." But their comfort is a leash, and every compliment comes with a hook. So next time someone makes you feel guilty for protecting your peace, ask yourself, are they hurt by your boundaries or by their inability to cross them? True liberation, it's not loud, it's not dramatic. It's quiet, clear, unapologetic. It's walking away without the need to explain. It's holding power without needing recognition. Machiavelli would tell you, freedom isn't granted, it's taken, not from others, but from the lies you once believed about what you had to tolerate. That moment you stop justifying yourself, that's when you're finally free. A boundary isn't an attack, it's a mirror. It shows people who they really are when they're told no. If they respect it, they respect you. If they resent it, they never did. Machiavelli didn't say be feared. He said be firm, because a line you don't defend was never a boundary. It was an invitation. And then it happens. One day you respond differently. You pause instead of explaining. You smile instead of defending. You walk away, not in anger, but in absolute clarity. That's the shift. That's evolution. Not louder, not harsher, just unshakable. Because now you know the rules. You've seen the traps. You've made the mistakes and refused to repeat them. Machiavelli said, "The wise man does at once what the fool does finally." And you? You're done being the fool. But don't think this is just personal. This is cultural, systemic. Society tells you to be soft, to be agreeable, to never rock the boat. It praises self-sacrifice, but rewards dominance. It shames ambition, but worships success. You're told to be nice, but the powerful, they're never just nice. They're calculated, composed, clear. Machiavelli wrote in a world of kings and coups. But not much has changed. The names are different. The rules are hidden. But the game? Still brutal. Still rigged against the unaware. And if you don't wake up, you're not just a victim. You're part of the machine. They told you love means sacrifice, that success means struggle, that worth means proving yourself over and over again. But Machiavelli would disagree. He'd say, love without respect is dependency. Success without power is temporary. And worth? It's not something you earn, it's something you protect. You don't need to be chosen to matter. You don't need to be praised to lead. Redefine it all. Love is not losing yourself. Success is not exhaustion. Worth is not up for negotiation. When you rewrite those definitions, they lose their grip, and you regain your throne. Here's the truth you won't like. You weren't just manipulated, you allowed it. Not because you're weak, but because you wanted to be loved, seen, accepted. You knew it didn't feel right, but you stayed. You made yourself small, hoping someone would notice how much you were giving. But they noticed, and they took more. Machiavelli didn't blame the deceivers. He blamed the blind. So ask yourself, how many times did you abandon yourself just to be accepted by others? How many times did you say yes when your entire body screamed no? That's not their betrayal. That's yours. And it's the hardest one to face. Because it was quiet. Because it looked like kindness. But Machiavelli knew the easiest person to deceive is the one who won't look in the mirror. But hear this, you didn't know better. You were surviving, you were adapting, and now you're awakening. And that is strength. This is your turning point, not a breakdown, a breakaway. You no longer seek approval, you set standards. You no longer fear rejection, you filter access. Machiavelli warned us, humiliation isn't an event. It's a pattern. But so is power. And when you choose awareness over comfort, clarity over chaos, self-respect over self-sacrifice, you don't just transform, you ascend. If you've made it this far, you've already shifted. You're not who you were when this video began. And they'll notice. Trust me, they always notice. Now it's your move. If this video hit you, if you saw yourself in these mistakes, don't just scroll away. Leave a mark. Comment. I reclaim my power. Let them know you woke up. Let yourself know this time you're not slipping back. And if you want more like this, subscribe. Not for algorithms, for armor. Subscribe if you want to keep leveling up. This isn't just about watching, it's about transforming. Join the movement. We're not here to stay silent, we're here to rise. And remember, the 7 mistakes Machiavelli warned about, they don't just steal your power, they erase your legacy. So ask yourself, when they speak your name one day, will it echo with regret or with reverence? Because now you know. And once you know, there are no more excuses. Choose power or keep paying the price.